Hospitals hum with a strange energy at night. The fluorescent lights buzz faintly, monitors beep in steady rhythm, and the soft shuffle of nurses' shoes echoes down sterile corridors. But in the quiet spaces, where shadows pool and the living hesitate to linger, something else stirs. As a hospital chaplain, I've walked these halls for years, offering prayers and comfort to those teetering on the edge of life. Most nights, it's a quiet calling. But some nights feel alive in ways they shouldn't. It was past midnight when I was summoned to room 312. Mrs. Eleanor Grayson, an elderly woman with no family left, was nearing her end. Her chart said she'd been unresponsive for days, her frail body succumbing to the weight of years and illness. I entered her room, the dim glow of the bedside lamp casting long shadows. The air was heavy, thick with antiseptic and something less tangible. A stillness that pressed against my chest. I sat beside her, my Bible open, and began a soft prayer. Her breathing was shallow, each exhale a faint whisper of life slipping away. The room was too quiet, the kind of quiet that swallows sound and makes your heartbeat feel intrusive. I finished the prayer and glanced at her face, expecting peaceful resignation. But her eyes, cloudy, unseeing, were fixed on the corner of the room. I followed her gaze. Nothing was there, just a shadowed nook where the walls met the ceiling. Yet the hairs on my arms stood on end. Then I heard it. A low, guttural sound, like a breath caught in a throat that shouldn't be breathing. It came from that corner where the light didn't quite reach. "Mrs. Grayson?" I whispered, my voice unsteady. No response. Her eyes remained locked on that spot, unblinking. I stood and took a hesitant step toward the corner. The air grew colder, a sharp, unnatural chill that made my breath fog. My pulse thudded in my ears as I squinted into the darkness. For a moment I thought I saw something. A shape, tall and indistinct, its edges blurring like smoke. It didn't move, didn't speak, but I felt it watching. Not me. Her. "Who's there?" I asked, barely audible. No answer, but the sound came again, a rasping whisper that seemed to curl around my mind. "She sees." My heart lurched. I spun back to Mrs. Grayson, her chest still, her eyes now closed. The monitor flatlined, its piercing wail cutting through the silence. She was gone. I stumbled back, my gaze darting to the corner. The shape was gone, if it had ever been there. My hands shook as I silenced the alarm and called the nurse. When she arrived, I didn't mention the shadow, the whisper. But as we prepared Mrs. Grayson's body, the nurse hesitated, her hands trembling. "Did you feel anything in here?" she asked, her voice low. "Like someone else was with us?" I didn't answer. The next morning, staff whispered about room 312. No one lingered there after dark. They said Mrs. Grayson had been muttering about a watcher in her final days, a figure only she could see. I don't know what I saw that night, but I feel it still. A presence that lingers in the quiet, waiting for those about to leave this world. Hospitals at night carry an eerie stillness, a quiet broken only by the hum of machines and the soft steps of nurses. As a chaplain, I've walked these halls countless times, offering prayers to those facing their final moments. But some nights, the hospital feels like it holds secrets, whispers of things that linger beyond the veil of life. One such night, I encountered something I'll never forget. It was a frigid evening, and I was called to room 214 to pray over Mr. Daniel Pierce, an elderly man in his final hours. The ward was dim, the fluorescent lights flickering faintly, casting unsteady shadows. I passed rooms where families sat in silent vigil, their grief a heavy presence. As I neared Mr. Pierce's room, I noticed a man standing just outside the door, motionless in the hallway's muted glow. He wore a hospital gown, his hands clasped tightly in front of him, his face calm, but unnervingly still. His eyes, sharp and searching, locked onto mine as I approached. I assumed he was a patient, perhaps disoriented, wandering from his room. "Sir, are you all right?" I asked softly, stepping closer. He didn't respond, didn't blink. His stillness was unnatural, like a statue carved from the shadows. I took another step, and in an instant, he was gone. Not walking away, not fading, just gone. No footsteps, no sound. The hallway felt colder, the air thick with an unexplainable weight. Shaken, but duty-bound, I entered Mr. Pierce's room. The nurse was adjusting his blanket, her movements gentle. His breathing had stopped. The monitor showed a flat line. He'd passed moments before. I stood by his bedside, offering a quiet prayer for his soul, but my mind was on the man outside. Something about his gaze lingered, heavy and deliberate. After finishing, I turned to the nurse. "Did you see anyone in the hallway just now? A man in a gown, standing by the door?" She froze, her hands pausing over the bed. Her face paled as she met my eyes. "What did he look like?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. I described him, his clasped hands, his piercing stare. Her breath caught. "That's him," she said, trembling. "That's Mr. Pierce." The words hit like a cold wave. I glanced at the body on the bed, then back to the empty hallway. "He was standing there," I insisted, my voice unsteady. She shook her head. "He's been here, in this bed, all night. He couldn't have been out there." I left the room, my heart pounding. The hallway was empty, the lights still flickering. I haven't spoken of that night since, but I feel him sometimes, that silent figure, watching from the edges of the ward. Was he waiting for his own passing? Or something else? I don't know. But in the quiet of the hospital, where life and death blur, I carry that moment, a reminder that some things are felt, not explained, in the spaces where the living fear to look. Hospitals at night are a world apart, where the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant beep of monitors create a deceptive calm. As a chaplain, I've grown used to the weight of these quiet hours, offering solace to those crossing into the unknown. But some nights, the hospital feels like it holds more than the living and the dying, something that lingers, watching from the shadows. It was a late shift in the East Wing, a section of the hospital under renovation, its halls eerily silent. I'd just left the ICU, where I'd prayed with a patient whose family had stepped out, leaving him to face his final moments alone. His breath was faint, his time near. As I walked back to my office, the corridor felt unnaturally still, the air thick with an unspoken presence. That's when I saw her. She sat in a visitor's chair at the end of the East Wing, her figure barely visible in the dim light. Her hospital gown was outdated, faded, hanging loosely on her frail frame. Long, tangled hair spilled over her shoulders, and her bare feet rested pale against the linoleum. She was motionless, hands folded in her lap, staring at the floor. I thought she might be a grieving relative lost in thought, so I approached cautiously. "Ma'am, are you all right?" I called softly. No response. The air grew colder, a bone-deep chill that made my breath catch. I stepped closer, my pulse quickening. "Ma'am?" I whispered, reaching out. Then she raised her head. Her eyes were voids, black, endless, devoid of humanity. A primal fear gripped me as her lips curled into a slow, unnatural smile, revealing teeth too sharp, too perfect. My stomach churned. Before I could move, she dissolved, her form unraveling like smoke into the cold air. I stumbled back, heart pounding, and ran to the nurse's station. "Who's in the East Wing waiting area?" I gasped. The nurse frowned. "No one. That wing's closed for renovations. Has been for weeks." I didn't sleep that night. My mind replayed her black eyes, her eerie smile. I avoided the east wing after that, keeping my eyes forward when I passed. But sometimes, in the corner of my vision, I'd catch a glimpse of her, sitting, waiting, her hands still folded. I asked around discreetly. A veteran nurse paled when I described her. "That sounds like a patient we lost years ago," she said. "She died in that wing. Some say she never left." I don't know what I saw that night, but it wasn't human. Was she waiting for someone to join her, or simply trapped in that liminal space between worlds? The hospital holds its secrets tightly, and some, I've learned, are not meant to be understood. They're felt in the chill of an empty hallway, in the weight of eyes that see too much. I pray for those who pass through these halls, but I wonder if some, like her, are still here, forever waiting in the shadows. Hospitals at night pulse with an eerie quiet, where the hum of fluorescent lights and rhythmic beep of monitors mask something deeper. As a chaplain, I've spent years offering solace in these liminal spaces, guiding souls through their final moments. But some nights, the hospital harbors presences that defy explanation, lingering where life and death blur. It was a late evening in the hospice wing, the air heavy with farewells. I'd been called to room 108 to sit with Mrs. Clara Bennett, a woman in her final days, her breaths faint and labored. I read scripture softly, her frail hand resting in mine, her eyes half closed but sharp with quiet strength. As I finished, she whispered, "He's here again. The man with the dark eyes." I leaned closer, heart quickening. "Who, Clara?" Her voice trembled. "Every night he stands by the window. He whispers words I can't understand. His eyes, they're black, like nothing's there." I glanced at the window, seeing only the reflection of dim light. I offered a prayer, trying to ease her fear, but her words clung to me. As I left, the hallway felt colder, the lights flickering faintly. I couldn't shake the image of a figure watching her. Hours later, I returned to check on Clara. The nurse met me at the door, her face pale. "She's gone," she said, voice shaking. But something happened. I stepped inside, the room thick with unnatural stillness. She hesitated, eyes darting to the window. Just after she passed, I saw a shadow. It moved across the room, not like a person, but like smoke. It had eyes, black, empty. It slipped out the door. My blood ran cold. "Did it say anything?" I asked, barely steady. The nurse nodded, hands trembling. I heard whispers, like a language I couldn't grasp. It felt wrong. I looked to the hallway, empty now, but the air felt heavy. "She told me about him," I said. "She said he came every night." The nurse's eyes widened. No one else saw it, but I know what I saw. We stood in silence, the weight of Clara's words and the sighting pressing down. I prayed for Clara's soul, but the room felt different, like it held a trace of something that didn't belong. Days later, staff avoided room 108 after dark. Whispers spread of a figure seen at the window, its black eyes watching, its voice murmuring in an unknown tongue. I don't know if it was Clara's guide to the beyond or something darker, waiting for her final breath. But I feel it still, in the quiet of the hospice wing, where the line between worlds thins and shadows whisper secrets we're not meant to hear. Hospitals at night hold a stillness that's both comforting and unsettling. As a chaplain, I've walked these quiet halls, offering prayers to those nearing their end. But some nights, the hospital seems to hold echoes of those who've passed, lingering in ways that defy reason. It was a quiet evening in the hospice wing when I was called to room 306 to sit with Mr. Thomas Howard. His family surrounded him, their faces heavy with grief. I took his frail hand, his eyes tired but alert, and offered a prayer. "Thank you, Father," he whispered, his voice weak. "Last night, a nurse, she was so kind, held my hand, eased my pain. I slept well for once. I smiled, assuming it was one of our staff. That's wonderful, Mr. Howard. Our nurses are dedicated. He shook his head, eyes distant. She was different. Wore an old white uniform, like years ago. Her voice, so gentle, like someone I once knew. A chill ran through me. I glanced at the nurse by the door, a woman in her 40s, her face suddenly pale. "What did you say her name was?" she asked, voice trembling. Mr. Howard's gaze softened. Didn't say, but she felt familiar, like a memory. The nurse stepped forward, her hands shaking. "That sounds like Helen. She worked here years ago, best nurse we had. Died in a car accident 7 years back." My heart sank. I'd heard stories of patients seeing loved ones before passing, but this, a nurse long gone, comforting a dying man, it didn't fit. "Are you sure?" I asked. The nurse nodded, eyes wide. "It's impossible. She's gone." But he described her perfectly. That uniform, her gentle way. Mr. Howard smiled faintly. She was here. Made me feel safe, not afraid anymore. The room fell silent, the air thick with something unexplainable. I prayed again, but my mind was on Helen. Had she returned to offer comfort, her kindness lingering beyond death? The nurse stood frozen, tears in her eyes. "Helen was like that," she whispered. "Always there for patients, even in their final moments." Mr. Howard passed that night, peaceful. I never saw Helen, but her presence lingered in the staff's whispers. Room 306 felt different after that, as if her gentle spirit still watched over it. Some things in this hospital, where life and death intertwine, aren't meant to be understood. They're felt in the quiet moments, when a presence brings comfort from beyond, reminding us that even in death, some souls never stop caring.